When people buy a car, one question almost always comes up. Should I get a petrol engine or a diesel engine? Some drivers say petrol engines are smoother and faster. Others insist diesel engines are more powerful and last longer. But most of these opinions come from experience, not from understanding how the engines actually work. Because once you look inside these machines, you begin to see why they behave so differently. The way they burn fuel, the way they produce power, and even the way they age over time. All of it comes down to the design of the engine itself. So in this episode of Techie Tales, we're breaking down petrol versus diesel engines, comparing their power, fuel economy, reliability, and real-world performance. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which engine makes more sense depending on how you drive. At first glance, petrol and diesel engines look almost identical. Both have pistons moving up and down inside cylinders. Both burn fuel to create controlled explosions, and both convert that energy into motion that turns the wheels. But the key difference lies in how the fuel ignites. A petrol engine uses something called spark ignition. Inside the cylinder, the engine mixes air and petrol together. A component called a spark plug then produces a small electric spark. That spark ignites the mixture, creating a tiny explosion that pushes the piston downward. This process happens thousands of times every minute, producing the power that moves the vehicle. Diesel engines work differently. Instead of using spark plugs, they rely on compression ignition. In a diesel engine, the piston compresses air inside the cylinder much more tightly than in a petrol engine. That compression raises the temperature of the air dramatically. Then diesel fuel is injected directly into that extremely hot air. Because the air is already so hot, the fuel ignites instantly without needing a spark. This difference, spark ignition versus compression ignition, completely changes how these engines behave. Let's start with performance. Petrol engines are known for being quick and responsive. They can spin at very high speeds, often reaching 6,000 to 7,000 revolutions per minute, and sometimes even higher in performance cars. Because they can rev higher, petrol engines tend to deliver faster acceleration and a more energetic driving feel. Press the accelerator in a petrol car, and the engine usually responds immediately. This is one reason sports cars almost always use petrol engines. Diesel engines behave differently. They usually run at lower engine speeds, but they produce significantly more torque. Torque is the force that actually pushes the vehicle forward. Diesel engines generate a lot of torque at low engine speeds, which makes them excellent at pulling heavy loads. That's why trucks, buses, and large SUVs often rely on diesel engines. They may not rev as high as petrol engines, but they provide strong and steady pulling power. Next, let's talk about fuel economy. Diesel engines are generally more fuel efficient than petrol engines. There are two main reasons for this. First, diesel fuel contains more energy per liter than petrol. Second, diesel engines operate at higher compression ratios, allowing them to extract more usable energy from the fuel. Because of this, diesel vehicles often achieve 20 to 30% better fuel economy compared to similar petrol vehicles. For drivers who travel long distances regularly, that difference can translate into significant fuel savings over time. This is one reason diesel engines became very popular among long-distance drivers and commercial vehicles. Another important factor is reliability. Diesel engines have built a reputation for durability. Because they operate under higher compression, diesel engines are built with stronger internal components. Their pistons, crankshafts, and engine blocks are typically designed to handle greater pressure. As a result, diesel engines often last longer than petrol engines. It's not unusual for a well-maintained diesel engine to run for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. This durability is why diesel engines are commonly used in trucks, buses, and other heavy-duty vehicles. Petrol engines can also be reliable, but they are usually built with lighter components because they operate under lower compression. This can sometimes mean a slightly shorter lifespan compared to diesel engines. However, reliability also depends heavily on proper maintenance and driving habits. Maintenance is another area where these engines differ. Petrol engines are generally simpler. Their fuel systems operate at lower pressures, and many of their components are easier and cheaper to replace. Diesel engines use very high-pressure fuel injection systems. These systems improve efficiency and power but can be more expensive to repair if something fails. Modern diesel engines also include additional emission control technologies, such as diesel particulate filters. These systems help reduce pollution but require proper maintenance, so while diesel engines can last longer, repairs can sometimes be more costly. Another noticeable difference is the driving experience. Petrol engines are typically quieter and smoother. The combustion process produces less vibration, which makes petrol cars feel more refined, especially in city driving. Diesel engines historically had a reputation for being louder and producing a distinctive clattering sound. That sound comes from the way fuel ignites under high compression. Modern diesel engines are much quieter than older designs, but they still feel slightly different. Diesel engines often feel stronger at low speeds, while petrol engines feel more lively at higher speeds. Cold weather performance can also vary. Petrol engines usually start easily in cold temperatures. Diesel engines can sometimes struggle in very cold conditions because the fuel requires high temperatures to ignite. To solve this, diesel engines use glow plugs. Glow plugs warm the combustion chamber before the engine starts, helping the fuel ignite properly. So which engine should you choose? The answer depends largely on how you drive. If most of your driving happens in the city with short trips and frequent stops, a petrol engine might be the better choice. Petrol cars are often quieter, smoother, and sometimes cheaper to buy. But if you regularly drive long distances or need strong towing capability, a diesel engine may be the smarter option. The improved fuel economy and strong torque can make diesel vehicles more efficient for highway travel. Over time, the fuel savings can add up significantly. Petrol and diesel engines have powered vehicles for more than a century. Each technology was designed with different priorities. Petrol engines focus on speed, responsiveness, and smooth operation. Diesel engines emphasize efficiency, durability, and strong low-speed power. Neither engine is universally better. The right choice depends on your driving habits and what you expect from your vehicle. But once you understand how these engines work, the differences between them start to make much more sense. And the next time someone asks whether petrol or diesel is better, you'll know that the real answer depends on how the car is used.